Thank you.
Welcome, everybody. We are starting on time. This episode is brought to you by AIPOD, which is nearly 1,000-strong community of AI enthusiasts. It's primarily a WhatsApp group where we have 1,000 of us consuming content of this kind. And also by Axel, which is AI Center for Startups and Excellence, which is a one-of-a-kind accelerator run by IIT Alumni Center, Bengaluru. So with that, I would like to welcome Sourabh. Sourabh is a seasoned entrepreneur. He's a founder of Skit AI. Sourabh and I have had conversations through podcasts earlier as well. But this is the first time I think we are not going to touch too much on the business and the technology that he's built, but instead talk more about his own experience as a founder. So welcome again, Sourabh.
Yeah, thank you, MD. Always great talking to you.
Thank you. So let's start right at the beginning, Sourabh. I mean, you started straight out of college. This was IIT Roorkee way back 2016 or 17, and you straight away started. So why not take a good high-paying job and rather than getting into this?
Yeah, I mean, it was a long time ago. This was 2016, but I don't know, like from the very first year of college, I kind of wanted to start a company. I mean, I come from a business family. Everyone from the city I come, people generally do business. So that's what I thought. I got excited about the idea of building a business after college. It was very unpopular back then, so people were not doing that at all. So we just decided to do that. I found my co-founder Akshay, and then he had a job, a PPO from a tech startup, and then he said, "You know what? I'm ready to jump in," and then we just started.
So he didn't take up the job.
He did not. He did not. No. To both our parents' disappointments, we decided not to take up jobs and started the company in college.
So what was the thinking? I know you came from a business family, so that kind of gave you the confidence, I guess. But how did you rope Akshay into this? I know Akshay well as well, and he's a tech dude.
Of course. I was looking for someone in tech. So I was like, hey, you know what? I can do all the non-tech things, but I need someone who can, be the innovator or rather, write code and, build whatever product we want to build. And then I was going around talking to all the people, and you know how it is, final semester of college. Many of them had plans for masters. Some of them already knew where they were going. Many of them had PPOs or jobs they'd gotten. But Akshay was someone I met. I still remember in a canteen in college, and then he had a reasonably paying job, and then he said, you know what, my condition was there's no money for the first 2-3 years, right? We just have to borrow from our parents or somehow manage. And he was the only one who was ready to do this. So I think we'll probably have to ask him.
But did you know each other well before that, or it was just meeting in the canteen for the first time?
So I was heading the entrepreneurship cell of IIT Roorkee. So I used to organize events and stuff like that. So he participated in a couple of them. So we knew of each other, but we were not like the best of friends hanging out before we met in that canteen.
Okay, cool. So you said, okay, so you had mentally prepared yourself saying you're not going to get paid, you're not going to make money for the first 2-3 years. Did it turn out to be 2-3 years or more?
So, I mean, a bit of both. Like, what was good was we got incredibly lucky. We raised our capital, from Kalari Capital. We raised the first seed round within 9 months of graduating. So that was great that we stopped borrowing money from our parents within 9 months of, graduating, which was sooner than we had expected. However, that was not a good amount of money, right? Like that was just barely, we were just barely covering our rent and, stuff like that. There was a time when 8 of us were.
I think I've lost
So we had
you.
a good life from that perspective, but to make like serious money, it took us a couple of years.
Okay. So 9 months, you started at least paying yourself. Is that right?
Right. I think it was like 50,000 a month or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. 50,000 a month, 2016. Okay, not too bad. I mean, you could live with it. And when did you move to Bangalore?
That was 15 days after graduation. So we decided, we'll take a 15-day break after graduating, and then we just moved to Bangalore.
Did you have the idea of what you were going to do at that time when you moved to Bangalore?
And not at all. We had no clue what we were going to do. The job was to figure out what to do for the first few months.
And how did you figure that out? This is an important lesson, actually, because not many people do it your way, even today.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, um, you know how it is. Like we whiteboarding every day. What framework should we apply? What makes sense, what does not make sense. We're sitting in Bangalore, so we're looking at, there was back in the days a lot of Amazon started in US and then Flipkart started here and stuff like that. So we were analyzing all the US based startups, etc. as well. But we came up with a framework that made sense to us, that has made sense to us even today. We use that to take decisions in terms of how we want to move forward. And that was, we decided we want to work on the edge of technology, right? So very early we narrowed down and said, we want to be the people who will always be on top of whatever new technology is coming in the world, and then we will build products thereafter, rather than just picking up like let's say an operational problem and then going deeper into that. So at that point of time, we were looking into AI, we were looking into blockchain, but very quickly AI made more sense to us. Within AI, there was vision, there was obviously voice, video. Voice made sense to us, and then we were like, hey, what's the next in voice? What can we do that does not exist today? And then we realized speech to text engine in Indian languages was pretty bad. Like Google was the only company that had something, and it did not work. So we decided, you know what, we're going to build speech to text engine in Indian languages, and then that sort of started our journey.
And this is before the LLMs came into existence.
Of course, yeah.
Because
We had a lot
2017
from,
is
yeah.
2017 is when that famous paper came out of Google, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think like deep learning was starting in like 2013, 14, like something, on those lines started. And yes, uh,
Did you get much help at that time from I from mentors, your seniors? How did you go about that?
uh, uh, what part, I mean, there's two kind of things, right? One is just the technology part of it.
Hmm.
And the other is everything else. So everything else, yes, like, we were leveraging whatever help we could because, we'd not worked anywhere. We did not have any. I mean, I mean, we are in the IIT group, but the IIT group is very strong, right? Like half of our college moves to Bangalore every year. So, there's quite a few people you can reach out to, and the people across the board in all kind of companies, right? You'll find people everywhere from like, tech heavy companies like Google, Meta, and then you will have people working in ops kind of companies, finance, you know it. But in tech, no, not really. But that was a good part. So the reason we chose to go ahead with tech first was because no one can help us. So no one can help anyone. So because it's all about the paper that came out yesterday, right? That you have to read and implement. So we exactly for that reason, because when we were younger, we thought, hey, everyone else is going to be more experienced than us. So where do we win against others? And we were like, at least we can make it a level playing field wherein no one is good. So now it's all about merit, and whoever can read that paper first and learn about it, build some technology on that will win. So uh,
Wow. Okay. So you picked the technology and then chose the problem to solve, is it?
correct. So then we were like, okay, voice, we've built speech to text in Indian languages. Where can we now monetize voice?
Mm.
Then call centers made a lot of sense to us, right? Like, okay, call centers are, there. We've built speech to text in Indian languages. What about all these large banks, large companies in India that, want to talk to their users? Call centers are painful. They're getting millions of calls, probably. Like, those were the thoughts we had. Like, we didn't know. So then we started talking to these banks and all, and that's how we got our first customers.
Wow. And in 9 months, somebody signed a check for you, even though it was small.
Correct. Yeah. And then
And
we got a
what
pretty
did
good.
what
Yeah.
what did you tell them? I mean, at that time, did you have anything? I mean, other than saying you're going to work in AI voice?
Yeah. I mean, I remember like there were 2 odd months where me and Akshay were just reading papers, implementing them. So we had that. So we built very quickly, we were able to build a very good grasp on technology. So we knew what was going on. We
Mhm.
built some demos. So we showed that, hey, you know what, this is what we can do. And then the network, like I remember one of my friends had started a fintech company. So we were like, hey, why would you do a POC with us? So, we built something. We had one or two people who were ready to try it out. So I think then we got incredibly lucky. So we
Okay.
raised.
Did you have a customer by the time you went to your investor?
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Not really a customer, more like a friend saying he'll do a POC with us.
Yeah. Times are very different these days, though.
Correct. I mean, we were one of the maybe handful of AI companies in Bangalore at that time. It was a very different world.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Okay, so you start, you get some money, and then you start building, getting customers. Now, all said and done, you're talking to. Did you go after call centers first?
Yeah, I mean,
So
correct.
these are call centers in banks, which means these will be people with suit and boot and ties and
Correct.
So how did you guys go there with jeans and t-shirt, and how did you make the pitch? How did you
Yeah,
make them believe you?
yeah, you said it right. Like for some of the first meetings was like me literally wearing a Pink Floyd t-shirt and walking into these offices before we learned there's a way to be presentable and there's a way they do business. But I think like we did not know any of this. We did not know the sales cycle are long. We did not know that some things could not be done, theoretically if you go out for advice in the market. Back in the days, people would be like, oh, there's no way you can close a 100K ARR deal in India and stuff like that. The first two deals we did were 300K each ARR from two of the largest banks in India. So I think we just didn't know and we were just following like first principles.
Say that again, Saurabh. So the very first customer deal you did was a
Yeah.
$300K, right?
Correct. $300,000 annualized. Two of them we did in the same year with two of the larger banks in India. Again, we were maybe early 20s, just learning how to wear a suit and stuff like that. I mean, the in each of them, like in one deal we beat Google, and the other deal we beat Nuance, which got acquired by Microsoft recently for a couple of billion dollars.
Yeah.
So we did beat also the larger companies in those.
Yeah. Just a message to people who are listening in. If you have questions, please post your questions in the Q&A box, not in the chat box. Saurabh and I are going to chat for maybe 30 minutes. Let's see, it's 7:12 now. We'll chat till 7:30, 7:35. Just depends on how interesting this conversation is going to continue to be. And, so post your questions, and I'll ask your questions after we finish your chat. So coming back, Saurabh, this sounds like a fantastic deal. You get out of college, you're expecting to not earn for 2-3 months, but you get some funding in 9 months. You get a customer. How quickly did you get your first customer?
I mean, I think it did take us. So like the first one was end up being a restaurant chain in India that happened rather
Yeah.
sooner. But these banks and all they did take like almost a year each to get
Mm.
them. But we were like actively engaged right throughout.
Mm. And you said you had two-member team right from the beginning, so you complemented each other very well. When
Yeah,
did you start putting together a team, and what did you look for in that initial team? I mean, I think that's a great message to the founders who are listening to this call as well. So you've, I suppose you started putting together your team after your first 9 months, after you got some
correct,
money in the bank. Is that right?
correct. Of course, yeah,
So
yeah.
what did you look for in them? And were you
Uh,
willing to pay market rates?
So we got again. I think we got lucky. Like we got a couple of our friends from college to join. Right, one guy was unhappy with his job, so he joined us, and the other guy, like he had a job offer from a reasonably big tech company in New York, but his visa got rejected. So we got
Wow.
lucky with him joining us. Both of them are still with us after all this time. So I think the first couple of people were from our college, were people we knew. We knew they were good people, so there was a little question in terms of should we hire them or not. And then obviously we raised capital. We needed to build a team. We were very clear we did not want to hire for GTM. We first wanted to get a product right. So I think for a long, long time it was just me and one of our founding members who were part of non-code writing team. In the first 20 people, I think 18 were people who were writing code. And what did we look for? We just looked for people who are ready to like hustle and build. They were very young people. I don't think we had
Mm.
anyone over like 25 at that time in our
Mm.
company. So people were just good at writing code and were ready to solve problems they've not seen before. Um, yeah,
And so there must have been a point when you started recruiting senior people as well. I mean,
yeah,
senior
yeah.
meaning at least in experience. Is that fair?
Correct, of course. Yeah, I mean that was after we started raising some serious capital. Then we raised like a slightly, a few $1 million, and then, all of a sudden, when you raise that, you obviously have investors, and there are growths for the first time, like, oh, you need to have board meetings, and then you need to, present numbers, and you need to achieve the numbers. But how do you achieve the numbers? Then you don't just achieve them, right? You need to have system process to achieve them. So then we don't know system process. Then we started hiring people who've been there, done that from the industry. But that happened like a couple of years into, like 2, 3 years into the, building phase. Then we started hiring them, and then, then it's a very different journey.
Actually, I have noticed, and you can tell me if you saw that as well, Saurabh, which is, from the time you move, initially you're recruiting people and they are good and so on. And then you start recruiting people, especially more experienced than you. And
Yeah,
that's where typically mistakes begin to happen unknowingly. I mean, you realize
yeah,
it only after a couple of months or so.
yeah,
Did
yeah,
you face
yeah.
such situations?
Oh, 100%. I think we've maybe made all the mistakes possible in the world when it comes to, that, part of building the company, hiring people, and, so on and so forth. But for sure, there's just so much.
So how
And
did
it's
you
one of
how
those
did you
things where,
deal with
like,
that?
sorry.
How did you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, there is like dealing with it in the moment, and then there is dealing with it like now, like after all these years, like now, you look back and you're like, okay, now we do things very differently, and we
Yeah.
are doing things very differently now. But um, I think that it's strange because you can't scale up without people, and people become the only leverage, going forward. So I think one of the main learning, the core has been you have to be incredibly hands-on. Like there is no way, going forward, we, or even in the last, like, say, year or two, we've hired people and we've let them be. Like for the first couple of months, we spent insane amount of time with them, right? Like keep onboarding them, be with them on call. And obviously you have a very sophisticated interview process. I'm not going into that. But I'm saying even
Yeah.
after the join, to make it work is a very different problem set. Like you have to almost make it work. It doesn't work on its own.
Yeah, but
You know,
Saurabh, that is where, I mean, especially people who come in with baggage, in other words, experience. When they come in, they don't expect you to be hands-on. I mean, they'll probably think, who's this kid who's trying to micromanage me? Is
correct,
that
correct.
correct? How do you
Uh,
respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, some of it has to be clarified in the interview process. It's not about us or them. Like now, at least, I'll be like, hey, I've done this before. You
Yeah.
know, the fact that I've, gotten you on board means I wanted to be successful, but I know for a fact that, it can only be possible if we are 100% aligned, right? Even if we are not aligned, we are aligned that we are not aligned on something. But we have to talk, we have to communicate, you have to know how I'm thinking, I have to know how you are thinking. We disagree, we, do all of that. And we do a lot of that in the early days. I think the other problem is, often, you hire senior people and you're like, okay, I'm going to spend equal amount of time with them. Like I'll maybe spend an hour a week, or 5 hours a month or whatever, but you have to spend like 100 hours in the first few months. And then once you're aligned, then it becomes much easier, right? Then you can reduce the time period later.
So is that the quantum of time you spend with even senior people when they come on board?
Now, like in some shape or form, like it might not be just me spending time. It
Hmm.
might be like, there's a group of us, right? So depending on
Yeah.
who we hire, like there's someone's responsibility that, hey, you have to spend insane amount of time with them. And obviously it's not just time, like we actually do reasonable work in terms of what do we mean. Like it's not just spend time, get a drink, but more like what are other
Yeah.
topics you
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
talk about, what do we want to
Yeah.
cover,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So yes, any new hire, in fact, we've done it for across the senior junior hire. Any new hire that comes needs, someone needs to be an owner of their onboarding, and that person should be spending insane amount of time with them in the first few weeks.
This is across the board, including junior hires.
Correct. It just, we feel like it just does not work otherwise.
That's a fantastic lesson, actually. That's
Uh,
fantastic. And your team is not that big, right? You're probably in the hundreds right now in terms of
correct.
number of people.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not insanely big. I mean, you can
Yeah.
still do it with the founding team.
Correct. Founding team, or now, it's been a couple. So we have people who've been with us for 3 years, so like they have a lot of contacts. So we trust them a lot also.
Ah,
So it's
okay,
not just
okay.
the founding team
So you
anymore.
got a scalable process now on
Correct.
this.
Correct. Of course. Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool. Let's talk about some of the challenges you've gone through, Saurabh. I
Yeah.
know. I mean, this whole LLMs coming in. Did you expect it when it happened? How did you react to it? I mean, did you feel that all the work which you have done is, the carpet is pulled under your feet?
I mean, we did have to rewrite everything, from a code point of view. So we did have to do that. But I mean, it did. we did get caught off guard. We were not expecting it, but I guess that's how it was for everyone.
Yeah.
So we've had a journey where we built a business in India, and then we realized like the real scale is in the US. So we moved out to the US. We started building our business from scratch in the US, which is pretty much like starting a new company. So even when this happened, we know how to do this. Like it's incredibly painful, it's incredibly hard, but it's not like we don't know what to do, right? How to rebuild and stuff like that. So it was that we pretty much had to rebuild everything. Like we had to move all our customers to LLMs, and then some of them are still not LLM, but we are having those conversations. And then especially if you have bigger deployments, it's a task. It's a big painful task. Costs a lot of money because if we don't do that, then a startup that has just started up, whatever 6 months
Yeah.
ago, maybe some people who are listening to this, they'll come and go to the competition and say, oh, you know what, we have a fancy demo, like listen to this
Yeah.
LLM thing, and then the customer is thinking, oh, Skit AI is now a legacy vendor and now this. So we don't want to be a legacy vendor. We are not. We are still on the edge of technology. So we had to
Right.
revamp all of it. In fact, that was a big project for us last year, that we revamped all our tech stack, and now we are as Gen AI as you know
Okay,
Gen
so tell
AI.
me from a customer perspective. So let's say I'm a customer, I'm a bank who's
Mhm.
listening to you, and you've been kind of you're with me for the last 2 years. What's your
Yeah.
message to me in terms of because it's now Gen AI, LLM, use this new version? Is that all I hear?
Uh, so we talk depth, like the way we talk is, hey, you know what, like showing, first of all, shiny demos is one thing, and seeing ROI is a whole different thing.
Right.
Right, and we are seeing that, by the way, with LLMs, and just like it was with pre-LLM, that you can deploy whatever, but for a customer to say, okay, I'm in a call center, am I able to do things more efficiently, which can be backed by numbers, right, in some sort of cost saving revenue increase, you have to quantify it. That takes a lot more work than just deploying, right? Like the real work we tell our customers starts after deployment, because then we are analyzing data, we are looking at analytics, we are taking data driven decisions. So we're kind of a solution in that way, not like a SaaS company, plug and play and forget. So we try to tell customers how LLMs are no different, which is also what we believe is reality. Obviously, you need
Yeah.
to be very worried about reliability, right? Costs are also serious. Now, some 6-month-old startup can come and say, oh, I can do it for XYZ cost, but then, hey, you know what, like there are no LLMs that are cheaper than that. So how are you doing it at that cost? You're just trying to get a deal, and then you're not going to be
Yeah.
able to fulfill. So we try to be like thought leaders, but also back it with our own demo. Like we benchmark our demos, for example, with all the Gen AI or whatever demos anyone can create. We have alerting for all the new models that get launched by Google, OpenAI, etc. We test those models, and so we keep publishing this to customers in some shape or form, that we know what is going on. We're trying to take decisions that are better for you, and then we present them. Like we quite literally are, like I said, going live with some customers, but that has happening with price increase, by the way, because LLMs are more
Mm.
expensive. So we're like,
Yeah.
hey, you want to give us more money? So it's a little more than, hey, just go ahead with LLM deployment. So it's a deeper discussion, but yeah.
Okay. And how have you seen customers evolve? I mean, you have now what,
Yeah.
8 years of
Yeah.
thing. How customers evolved, and tell me more about Indian customers. I think most of our audience is for the India.
Got it.
How has Indian customers? Because one of the complaints I hear from, by the way, I've heard this more than once, is that many customers say, "Give me a free POC and nothing happens." So these guys spend money, effort doing these free things, and nothing comes out of it. Did you face that problem, or
Yeah,
have you
yeah.
seen customers evolve?
It was the same back then as well. They wanted to, like, I think like some of that also needs like sales, or like hustle, I would say, founder hustle, that you have to navigate that and see where, like, it's not so much about just doing free POC, but is the free POC because they're just not interested, and maybe, like I'll say it, that some of these companies can have innovation teams, right? Their KPI is how
Mm.
many vendors are you engaging with. Like, is it one of those free POCs that, oh, I just want to engage with an AI vendor? Or is it one of those POCs where there's a business leader who has a budget and he's saying, hey, I really have this problem and I'm evaluating these two vendors very seriously, and those are also serious vendors. And then you are in that game. and then they're benchmarking A versus B versus C. Whoever is better is going to get the deal. In those kind of plays, like for sure, like I'll put my foot down, and if I'm backing my technology that I can win the POC, I will do that. But then I better have a serious decision maker, better have a serious discovery meeting with them. Hey, are you like going to buy? Are you going to, how big can this get, etc. So free POC itself is not really a problem, but like I think some of that hustle is important, like not to get too excited. Oh, I just spoke to innovation team of a bank in India and they wanted a free POC. Now I have 4 free POCs, so expecting that I'm going to make $2 million revenue next year, like that's
Yeah. So,
probably not happening.
the lesson there I see is it's very important to know who within the big enterprise you're talking to.
Who you are talking to, like is this a real problem for them, or is it like a checkbox thing, they are saying, hey, I just want to show it to it happens, right, for whatever shape or form. I remember even then, back then we did voice bot for call centers, and customers would come and say, oh, can you deploy it on Alexa? And we would think, like, who in India is gonna talk about their checkbook to Alexa? How does that, make sense? So, like, some
Yeah.
of the things are like good PR stunts, but we like stayed away from them. Even
Yeah.
if that means, oh, I got a logo to publish on my website for, very large customers. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Guys, just a reminder, please post questions. We'll chat for another 5-10 minutes and then we'll open up. So please think about your questions for Saurabh and post them in the Q&A box. So I want to go back again to your college days. If there
Yeah,
is one thing somebody should have advised you, I mean, in hindsight,
yeah.
what should it have been?
Yeah, I mean, we think about that a lot even now to take decisions. I think one of them is just be very bold. Like, you know, um, just instead of thinking of things in step function, or first I'll do this, then I'll do this. Like very often you can do the, just go for the stars right away. I think that's incredibly powerful. So for sure, being very
So
bold.
can you expand it a little bit, Saurabh? I think it's a very important message. I mean, what is boldness? I mean, in your case, let's say you said AI. Was that really a bold step? I mean, because of course
No.
you reasoned
Yeah,
out saying that it's a level playing ground if you get into a area of AI.
yeah, yeah.
But bold in what way? I mean, go after a big customer, go after a big deal. What exactly is bold?
Yeah. So again, more of the latter than the former, not so much AI. When I say bold, for example, at some point of time, it was, you know, why did we have to sell in India, for example? Right? Like,
Mm,
sure. I mean, one of those, I mean, we had to sell in India. We had a reason. Like, we were literally called vernacular AI. We built speech to text in Indian languages and so on. But I'm
correct.
not saying that. What I mean is, a lot of times, founders in India, Bangalore especially, would be like, oh, let me get a few logos in India. But when people are asking them about their market size, then they're saying market size is going to come from the US. And sure, you might be young, sure, you might not have visited US before, and so on. But if that's your market and your product works the best in large enterprise, in the like, I would actually try to get in touch with, let's say, Citibank in US sitting in Bangalore, even if I was 22. Like that is what I would change, going back. And that's how we take our decisions now, that, hey, be incredibly bold. Like if you believe in it, like go for it. And then back yourself up a lot. Like if you feel like, don't try to do pattern matching. Don't try to be like, oh, there are these 5 other companies, they have this kind of a model and, that kind of a model. Like whatever makes sense to you, just go for that.
So
Because
you're saying don't really think too much about competition as long as you think you have a
um,
good product. Is that what you're saying?
Um, thinking about competition is obviously very, it doesn't make sense. I mean, I think there's a lot of content written about it also. Like it's
Yeah.
just incredibly,
Yeah.
especially like this SaaS kind of, like if you're selling to
Yeah.
enterprises, then thinking about competition is just
Mm.
a waste of time. But I mean, um, yeah, I mean, don't try to look for a lot of advice and comfort from others in any shape or form, be it competition, be it peers who are doing different things, other companies, you sometimes you're starting something, but there are companies to look up to, right? Like who are doing the same thing, and then you are, differentiation. Don't think about anything. Like just think from first principles. Build your own models, be it business model, be it pricing model, be it tech model, product model. Like think from scratch. Don't take too much advice. Just go for it.
That's an amazing input, Saurabh. I mean, I would, in fact, it's very counterintuitive actually, for especially people starting up, because people
Yeah.
tend to actually get advice from wherever they can.
Yeah, I don't think that's a great idea. I think like in some cases it makes sense. like, you want to build systems for sales, like, hey, just talk to someone who has built systems for sales. Right? You don't want to innovate there, but when it comes to what product to build, which a market to go after and stuff like that, I think that's so incredibly personal to, the startup, the idea that, I
Yeah.
mean, I would not take
Yeah. I mean,
advice.
you know your product best, you know your market best, and most important feedback you get is from your customers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If your
So,
customers are liking you, then there's no better way to get confident.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, Saurabh, kind of last theme, sleepless nights. It can't be rosy all along for the last
Yeah,
many
yeah, yeah. Of
years.
course.
What, how do you deal with stress points? I mean, I'm sure you've had many.
Yeah, I mean, again, it has evolved a lot. I think when, I was younger, we all were younger, like it was very different, right? There was so much noise all around, or this startup raised so much capital, and, this startup came in the news, and this startup, did this, did that, whatever. And, some of those things would stress you out, or, that company had more revenue, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, especially
Yeah,
place like Bangalore or San Francisco, it can be a lot to take in. You scroll through LinkedIn and every startup has, 5 million in ARR in the first 60 days of launch or something like that. But I think now over so many years, we've seen like there is no way out of building a really solid business unless you get incredibly lucky. And unless like, okay, if your strategy is luck, I understand. Like, sure, do you. But if your strategy is not luck, there's no way out of building a very solid business with healthy margins, good systems, good processes, good product, good technology. It's a long-term game. Many companies come, they raise, they have things, and then they also fall flat. Many of them also end up growing. So you never know.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So someone is ahead of you today, tomorrow they will be behind you. Just focus on fundamentals, build a good, solid business. Like that's what we now do, which we maybe not done in the past. So if it comes to the question of like stress and all, like now our answer is, hey, are we building a solid business? Are we listening to our customers? Are we growing the way we want to? Like, do we know our market really well? Are we aware of competition really well? Do we have a right to win, in the deals? As long as all of that is there, we try to stay away from, uh, you know, the
What
noise.
about, have you ever been in a situation where you thought you're going to run out of money?
So many times.
So many times.
That's
So how do you deal with
yeah.
that?
Um, I
I
mean,
mean, because you have a team, you have customers. I mean, it's a different kind of stress. That's why I'm asking you a very
yeah,
direct
yeah, of
question on that.
course. Yeah, I mean, I said so many times, but like more realistic, 2 or 3 times. But I mean, the way we look at it, you have a couple of levers, right? Cost is a lever, revenue is a lever, and external capital raise is a lever. So I think you try to optimize all of them, and as long as you are in the long game, you know that many companies have gone through this. Like I don't know how many founders can say that they've never been in this kind of situation if they have been doing this for a decade. So
Yeah,
so again, cost is a lever, revenue is a lever, external fundraisers is a lever. You try to optimize, analyze the situation. Are you in a place where you can raise a lot of capital? Do you want to raise that capital? What kind of valuations will you get? Or do you want to optimize on cost? And cost, like, variable cost, fixed cost, variable is easy. Like, can you cut down some of that? And then
yeah,
revenue increase obviously is always the priority. Like, is there a way we can? So, we
yeah.
try to optimize all that. And every time we've taken very in moment decisions based on whatever made sense to us at that point.
And fortunately, it's worked out. So there are founders listening to this show, Saurabh. What I mean, so one, oh, I wanted to talk about this. I just, in fact, as part of AI Pod, I publish AI generated podcasts. I think I mentioned that to you. So one of the episodes I did was in this company called Base 44. I don't know if you've heard about them.
I'm not sure. No.
Okay, as I said, it's a you know it's an extreme story actually. Founded some 6 months ago and sold within 6 months for $80 million.
Oh my God, that's
Okay,
insane.
kind of a solo founder. So 80 million of which 25 went to his team of 8 people. Okay, it's some vibe coding kind of a product, and it just worked out that Israeli company, and it was bought by
Yeah.
Wix, which is also Israeli. Anyway, I know it's a bit of an outlier in the grand scheme of things, but the big question is that many people think now that you can actually be a kind of a solopreneur, solo entrepreneur, because of all these tools available to you. You can move much faster. you don't need to raise that much money because so much more can be done with so little capital. Uh, what's your thought on that? I know you went through a different process, but I'm talking
Yeah, yeah.
about founders of today.
Yeah, I mean, I am quite certain that things can be done by much lesser, with much lesser people. So solopreneurs make sense to me. I'm not sure if that's a VC game. So here's what we are learning. So even after we've started doing a lot of vibe coding, right? What we are learning is now a lot of companies are doing that. So the bar has increased a lot. So earlier, let's say you were supposed to build X amount of software in a year. So okay, now you can build X 3x in a year. But because you can build 3x in a year, now everyone can build 3x in a year. So the bar is now 3x in a year. So
Yeah.
you still need, like, which was strange. Like a few months ago, we were thinking, hey, we need lesser engineers because a lot of work is automated. But now we are realizing, okay, we probably need a lot more engineers because we still need, if the bar is 3x code to be written, if you want to beat that bar, we still have to write 4x code. So we still need that extra. So I mean, I'm sure like there can be solopreneurs, but I'm not sure if in the VC game where you're trying to do hyper growth, you know, teams are going to be incredibly small. The bar is just insane right now. I don't know what you
Okay.
think
So
about that. Yeah.
you're saying that you'll still eventually still have the kind of same size team, but 3x, 5x productive. That's what is changing.
Yeah, because everyone is now doing the same thing,
Mm.
right? Like everyone is. I don't. All the companies I was seeing earlier had single products. Everyone has multiple products now. So now you can't have a single product. Now you need multiple products. So it just, yeah. So three, four
Yeah,
x
yeah.
more productive, same team, maybe even bigger if you keep
Bigger
growing.
team. So that, oh gosh. Okay, got it, got it. Okay, I'm going to start taking questions. I know somebody's raised the hand. Purabi Das, you need to type your question in the Q&A box. You will see the Q&A box on your screen at the bottom somewhere. So please type your question there, Saurabh, and I'll ask Saurabh the question which you want to ask. I know you've raised your hand, but please type in your question. And same for others as well. Type in your question so that I can ask Saurabh. Okay, cool. Anyway, we'll continue talking, Saurabh. I mean, while
Yeah.
hopefully some questions come up. Otherwise, we'll wrap up early and gift ourselves, some
Yeah.
time. There's one question which has come up over here. Okay, this is from Ranjit. First of all, thank MD and Saurabh for this fascinating podcast. My question is, for a company to grow, there is a technology part, which is building the product, and there is a scaling part, marketing, getting customers, etc. For a startup during initial years, as I assume both these are joined at the hip. True. Actually, not just startup, even otherwise, I think. Meaning the founders are hands-on and on both fronts. At some point, when the company grows, both have to disengage. What is the tipping point when technology and the scaling or customer acquisition, let's say kind of diverge? Or am I wrong about this assumption?
Um, yeah, I would say like our learning is it's incredibly, it's difficult, but actually the point you're making, because if you want to keep, you want to not disengage is the game. So in fact, that is how you want to design your system process. In fact, like even today we think, how do we, uh, like a lot of product or technology ideas come from customer conversations. Uh, and those are not conversations from just existing customers, but newer customers when we are talking to them in, let's say, the pre-sales kind of process. So we actually encourage our tech team to be part of sales
Hmm.
process, because that's where they figure out what to build further. So if you want to keep growing, keep moving forward, your R&D, or R&D rather, product management, product strategy, engineering, ML, like they need to be involved a lot on the sales side, from customer point of view. If you, yeah, I mean, that's, so I would say like they should not get disengaged.
Disengage. They should continue to do it. Okay, next question. I think you're also seeing it on the screen, Saurabh. So
Yeah, yeah.
this is from Purabi. With AI taking over every field, what kind of ethical consideration should be taken care of by the founders? Actually, it's a great question. But very few people talk about it.
Yeah, ethics in AI, to be honest, like we are seeing some of the more sophisticated buyers, at least in the US, also talk about it. So we do have an ethics in AI policy. I think we need to have a very high bar, for ethics. Now, what it means in different scenarios is a, very question. I mean, I think it's a function of what you are doing, what kind of, product you are building, tech you are building. and some of it can be gray area, some of it is like black and white and stuff like that. So I'm not an expert in defining the black and white of ethics in AI, but what I can say is like at least we have a policy that we consulted relevant people in the industry, even lawyers, etc., to draft. And some of our customers do ask that, and we do share that, and we do follow that in whatever we build internally. I'm not certain if there's any generic answer that one side. Like we work a
Yeah,
lot
and
with like
also I think
collection.
yeah, and
So
also in your business, it's regulated as well, right? I mean, there are regulations
yeah,
which come in, which I suppose cover some of these.
some
For
of
for
these.
example, for
Mhm.
example, I suppose if you have a bot which is talking to the customer, you need to tell the customer that you're a bot, right, or something like that. Should you?
Uh, correct. That level, yes. But I think a lot of ethics questions come in terms of, for example, what kind of data, because there's so much customer information we have, and what kind of data are we using in customer information to train our models, and then our
Oh, yes.
models getting biased in an unethical way, and reacting to a query like, let's say it's a voice bot, we are doing that collection, like, is it getting trained that, oh, some racial discrimination is happening, that, oh, for whatever model it might be trained on, I don't know, global data, whatever, that, when we call someone with this kind of a name, like, you have to have this kind of conversation. So there are some of those
Oh, yeah,
boundaries
yeah.
that need to be
That's a great point,
taken
actually.
care
Yes.
of.
Yeah.
So regulation has not reached there yet.
Yeah.
Uh, where it talks about it. So we do have a policy that we follow at least
So you
internally.
need to take care of it yourself.
Yeah, yeah,
Good. That's a
yeah.
very good point. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to say the next question we've got from Venkatesh Suran. Why did Skit AI go for funding in the first 9 months? Isn't bootstrapping a better approach? In any case, the money is barely much. Well, these guys are kids out of college. Anyway, you answer, Saurabh.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like um, money, it was for very different for us because and I can give numbers, like at that point of time, ended up raising 300K first check 9 months later, but we actually had options for being raising up to 1 million. Obviously, you had to dilute more. And I still remember we couldn't figure out how are we going to spend 300K because that just seemed like such a big number. Because even when we were trying to put our salaries and a couple of other people's salaries, our lifestyle, etc., we were like, okay, this money is going to last for so long. So we actually thought that was a lot of money, and we chose not to raise much. However, having said that, why did we not do bootstrap it? Because we definitely needed uh, for the technology that we were going after, we needed research. Like we needed people who would be sitting and working and building the product, and there is no way we thought we could monetize before the product is built. So because there was that lag, we had to have a way to monetize. I mean, have money to pay people to build.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. And had you realized by then that sales cycles would be long with enterprises?
Not really. Like we had no idea about a lot of that came when we started taking advice from people. Like they were like, oh, sales cycle long. Like I said, in India you can't close 100K plus deals and stuff like that. So that started much
Yeah.
later.
No, it's fascinating that you closed 300K deal in India when I guess most people would have said it's not going to happen.
Not gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one example, I guess, of you being bold,
I
just ignoring that advice and just moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember one person who said that we could do that. Like, I don't remember one person, but I do remember for the one of the first banks we pitched $1 million, and they negotiated back with free, and then we agreed on a 300K kind of
So
number.
you started at million and they started with zero, and
Yeah,
you kind of hopefully converged after that.
yeah, because their logic was, hey, you're getting to use our logo, so
Ah,
you should give it to us for free. But we negotiated.
okay, good, good. I'm glad you negotiated and you won it as well. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Okay, any other questions, folks? Otherwise, we'll just wrap up. And we spent 45 minutes, so that's pretty good. I just want to let you know this recording of this will be available sometime tomorrow. By tomorrow evening, it should be up. If there are no other questions, yeah, we're done. This is fantastic, Saurabh. I know this is such a different conversation to what we have had in the past.
Yeah.
We didn't talk tech, we didn't talk business, we didn't talk customers. In fact, I don't think people know what you do. So you may want to give a very quick intro of what your business is.
Yeah, so we help enterprises with collections. So this is that collection. So we kind of make it like stress-free for the end users by leveraging a lot of AI. So we have a suite of solutions now, conversational AI, modeling, etc. Where we help companies both in India and the US. That.
Fascinating. Great. Thanks, Saurabh. And folks, I want to let you know that next Thursday, which is what's the date? July 3rd, we are going to have another live session. This is going to be with Dr. Ekrup Kaur. She is the Secretary of IT and PT for State of Karnataka. So she's going to talk about how startups can benefit from the zillion programs which Karnataka has. So be sure to tune in for that as well. So with that, Saurabh, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. This has been a
Thank you,
great
MD. Thank you for
conversation.
having me. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye-bye. Thank you.